Eastern, where I talk about music and voice and artist development and music business and career and how to really help you rise and turn up the conversation on how to really build a creative life in music that you love. And as you come on today's live stream, please let me know where you're tuning in from. Today, I'm talking about the 5 secrets to improve breath control for your singing voice. What more important a topic for a performing singer? So, a quick announcement. Um, I wanted to point you guys to really experience the co-vocal method, this incredible biomechanical method that I have taught over 40 years and really formed the method over the last 5 years or so into an official method. And so you can now experience the beginning of this method in my free 4-day workshop, the Better Voice Challenge. If you go to my website, it says free training. You just click on it. Or if you go to Instagram to the link tree, you'll find the links. It's in the bio and in link tree as well. And I really recommend, if you haven't trained with my method at all, or if you have trained with my method and you're really looking for a refresher, these are new sequences and techniques within the method that I formulated last year to really give you the experience of what it feels like to really experience a transformative shift in your voice. And they're 4 1-hour workshops. It's free. And each session builds on the other in sequence to open up your voice, begin restoring your natural sound and resonance, and really increasing vocal power with simple and effective methods that are not taught anywhere else. I've never met a singer whose voice could not be improved dramatically with the right techniques and methodology and pedagogy. And so inside this free vocal challenge, these free 4 1-day workshops, you'll discover innovative, the latest in movements and sequences and exercises based in biomechanics to really walk you through how to get in there and open up and free the voice to really sing with greater ease, freedom, and confidence. So I really recommend for you guys to take part in that. You can do them as you wish. You have access to all 4 workshops, and we also send at once. And if you want to just breeze through them in a couple days or a day, and you can also just do them once a day. We do send out an email series that's one every day for 4 days. So it's free, and you're really experiencing a high level of vocal technique and pedagogy in the beginning of the co-vocal method. So let's dive into the content today. In today's conversation, I want to lay out the 5 secrets of how to improve breath control and not only access deeper breathing, but really learn how to control the breath to retain air in your lungs so that you can sing longer and freer. And I think it's a very misunderstood topic. I just did a live, a new mini voice lesson that we posted yesterday that walks you through sort of the basics of it. And I'm also going to walk you through it today. So the 5 secrets I'm going to walk through are: number 1, learn how to breathe diaphragmatically. Number 2, decrease tension in the neck and intercostal muscles, and I'll talk about what those are. Improve your alignment to free your diaphragm, which makes a huge difference in the production of the voice and the access to deeper breathing. And number 4, breath is fuel. Learn how to keep that air in your tank. And number 5, how to keep the ribs expanded on the onset of the note. And this is really, that's what the mini voice lesson yesterday goes over on Instagram in a quick nutshell. But that is really where most people are losing a lot of air. So I'm going to plow through this content, then I'm going to open it up for questions. So write your questions down, and you can put those in the comments when I open it up for questions. So, and as always, this content is the topic of the blog of the week. So if you want the blog in your inbox, sign up at carriecole.com. And if you want to go over there after listening to this live stream or pull it up during this live stream, you can see everything documented there. Pardon me. Okay. So, number one, learning how to breathe diaphragmatically. So, most people, until they've done my kind of a method or had it really explained, and I find it's often not explained very well. And you have to understand, I've been teaching for 40 years. So, I've seen and heard all the techniques, I've seen and heard everything, every which way, and what most people talk about. I know what's taught in theater schools. I know what's taught in opera schools. I was on the board of directors for the New York Singing Teachers Association. I taught at NYU. I taught at Columbia, and I've had my own studio for 40 years. So when I'm talking about these things, I'm extremely well informed in understanding that most people don't really understand diaphragmatic breathing. And so if you've been doing my Singer's Gift warm-ups for a little while, you're probably ahead of the curve. Give me a shout out if you do my warm-ups, um, because we get you breathing diaphragmatically. But if not, I'm going to tell you the secret. So the secret is, and I did not learn this inside of from my voice mentors, my vocal mentors. I learned this when I was studying deep tissue massage with a student of Ida Rolf, who started Rolfing. Okay. And it is in some schools that people talk about rib breathing, but most singers, most vocal coaches talk about breathing in the belly. Okay. This is not complete breathing. Okay. So the secret is it starts with moving the ribs. That's where the diaphragmatic breathing is. So if the diaphragm is like an odd shaped hand, okay, inside like the top of the rib cage or inside the rib cage. Well, the rib cage really covers this whole area. My fingers are like the lower portion of the ribs, right? And then the ribs come all the way up, right? The diaphragm is kind of tucked inside like an odd shaped hand, kind of off to the side a little bit. It's not completely symmetrical. It's different on every person. The lungs are on top of that diaphragm. So when you only breathe into the belly, we're not getting diaphragm movement. We have to release the ribs and open the ribs in order for that diaphragm to have room to go down. And most people's ribs is tight, okay, just from standing upright, from never having really worked those ribs. And I talked about the intercostal muscles, which I'll talk about in just a second, but those are the muscles that wrap around the ribs. So there are 28 muscles that wrap around the ribs called the intercostal muscles, and they're in between the ribs. If you just put your fingers in between your ribs, those are the intercostal muscles. And we never really do fascia release, or unless you're doing body work or that kind of thing. Most of the time the ribs are pretty tight, and that's why people tend to breathe up into the chest, right? So when I see upper chest breathing, I know that the ribs are locked. Okay, so we want to start on that. So let's just do really quickly. Put your hands on your rib cage with your thumbs at the back and hold them firmly. Okay, so then exhale and squeeze the ribs together. Inhale slowly and feel the swing of the ribs. There's a little swing of the ribs go out. See if you can feel that. And then exhale. Let's do it again. And inhale. Feel that outward swing of the ribs. Okay. And the goal is that you, over time, increase that stretch. You increase that swing of the ribs. Not where it's huge, like it's still a stationary structure, but those intercostal muscles, as we stretch them out, and there's a lot of exercises you can do inside Feldenkrais and Alexander that we incorporate into our method to be able to release those deeper tensions in those muscles. Okay. So this is the beginning of breathing diaphragmatically. Number 2 is to decrease tension in the neck and the intercostal muscles, because the diaphragm is attached to the neck, right? And the diaphragm inserts into the back of the spine. So right about midway through the back is where the diaphragm inserts into the spine. So when you have tension in the neck muscles, when you have tightness in here, it's pulling. So there are spinal erector muscles that go alongside the spine from the pelvis up to the base of the skull. And those spinal erector muscles get tight and in different sections, right? So if you walk with your hips forward and your butt out, you're going to have a tightness in the lower back, depending on how you stand, on how you walk, all of these things. And how that really relates to singing is and breathing is that when you have a tightness in the lower back, it tends to pull, it makes those spinal erector muscles shorter, and then it pulls on the neck, and then you have a shortened neck. When you have a shortened neck, you tend to have a forward head. When you have a forward head and a shortened neck, you're disconnected from the breathing mechanism. So that we really want to decrease the tension. We want to start by decreasing the tension in the neck and the intercostal muscles, because most problems with breath control really stem from tension in the neck, the upper back, and the intercostal muscles. All of these muscles are like in a giant web, like a gridlock, and they tend to be in gridlock, right? So if the intercostals are tight, usually the spinal erectors are tight and the neck is tight, and it inhibits your breathing, right? So just over on the blog, there's a neck stretch to try, and there's a breathing exercise to try to help to open that up. Okay, I'm going to go on to number 3, improving your alignment to free your diaphragm. And if you really want to experience this, we go through all of this in the Better Voice Challenge. It is free. You'll see free training tab on our website at carriecole.com, or you'll see in my links everywhere where to sign up for the Better Voice Challenge. Do yourself a favor and really experience this. Number 3 is to improve your alignment to free your diaphragm. So we live in a forward head world, like I was just talking about. We're on our devices, right? And because of that, most people's heads sit slightly in front of their body. Well, the problem with that is that the weight of the head is 10 to 15 pounds. So if the head is forward, what's holding the head on top over the body? The neck muscles, right? And what happens is those neck muscles go into a contraction, right? And that really affects the voice. So alignment makes a big difference. The singer is always looking for how can we, so here's a forward head, right? And a slump chest. Most people have a drop chest and a forward head, right? Drop chest and a forward head. So look what happens when I start to correct that. And I think of lengthening the back of my neck. Look what happens to my chest naturally. And then I have that nice straight line. So my weight of my head is not being supported by my neck muscles, that puts them into a constant contraction. And what does that contraction do? Does anyone know? What does that constant contraction of that forward head and the neck muscles going into a contractive state, how does that affect the voice? Does anybody know? It constricts the sound. If you just put your hands on your throat and just tighten your throat, what do you feel? A tightness in your voice, right? So neck muscles, tension in the actual instrument, alignment, the way the head needs to sit back over the body. And we need to get this to be natural. And so we do this through yoga, through body work, through Alexander training. We just have a special guest expert coming on to our vocal mastery program. It's our year-long program that teaches level 2 of my method. And we have one of the foremost Alexander technique experts coming in to speak with us on Thursday. It's really important. It's an integral part of our method. The Alexander technique training was developed by a father and son when they were singing theater and they were losing their voices. And so they learned, the power of alignment in restoring the actual voice. So the alignment's really important. Number 4 is that breath is fuel. How to keep air in the tank. So one of the secrets to mastering breath control, and if you struggle with this, you're probably losing a lot of breath on the onset. And we'll talk about that in number 5 in just a moment. One of the secrets, after you learn how to really breathe diaphragmatically, because the lungs are shaped like triangles, and if you're breathing only up here, you're only getting the top portion of the lung. That's why it's not a satisfying breath, and that's why it doesn't sustain your singing voice, because you really need to be able to move those ribs out to be able to get that air down into the lower portion of the triangles, right, of the lungs. So the other piece is being able to keep the air once you've got that bigger capacity for your breath, and you've opened up your intercostal muscles and you're using your ribs to breathe from, then it's being able to keep the air circulating under what we call the glottis, which is the opening of the vocal folds underneath is the key to retaining air in your lungs. And this is what really gives your voice the fuel and the air in the tank to be able to sing long phrases, not run out not run out on notes, on phrases. And this is often very misunderstood. And the problem is when air goes out too quickly. So it's usually, it's always at the onset of the phrase. And we'll do a quick exercise to show that. And then I'm going to open up for questions. When the air goes out too quickly, usually at the onset of the phrase, the singer loses that valuable reserve to sing on right from the beginning of the phrase. And that's it. Right? And then it's gone. Once it's out here, it's gone. There's no air to sing on. So that vibration of the air is really the fuel that your voice sings on. So you want to keep it here without holding. It's not about holding the breath. It's learning how to retain air, but keeping the throat free. So number 5 is keeping the ribs expanded on onset. This is one of the techniques that really helps us do that. So the secret of really being able to master this starts with the action at the first moment of sound. So back to the rib cage, right? We're going to hold our rib cage, put our hands on our rib cage, and just exhale. And then inhale. And now exhale. So we feel on inhale, we feel a little movement expanding, and on exhale, we feel a little movement coming in, right? So now let's sing, and let's do it with a breath first, and then we'll do it with an ah, and see if you can keep the ribs out on that first moment of the sound. So we're going to inhale and sing ah. Okay, so I want you to inhale. Now gently keep the ribs out and sing ah. You see how they want to come in? They want to come in. That immediately is an indication that you are pushing air. This is what vocal teachers mean by pushing. There's other elements to that as well, but this is one of the main things they mean by pushing, is that there's a balance between air and muscle, okay? The less skilled you are, the more you're going to muscle the voice, the more you're going to push that air out, and you think that pushing the air out is what makes sound, but it's actually keeping the air vibrating here that makes better sound. Okay. So that's my nutshell lesson for today. I hope that helped you. You can go check out the mini voice lesson and try that, practice that, where we do this technique. And then you can go and get a seat in the Better Voice Challenge. It's open. It's open right now. And it's 4 1-hour workshops where we walk through all of this. Let's go to questions from the group here. So anybody have questions about anything that I talked about, or anything to do with voice? Oh, you guys are so sweet. It's good to see everybody. Look at Carrie Height. Look at you. Good to see you here. That's been a minute. So good to see everybody. So who has questions? Put your questions in the comments. Anything to do with breath control, like why, I have trouble always at this particular note, or any specific questions. New York City. Yay, Valerie Lemon. I'm dehydrated. Did you just hear that? Yeah. I need to drink some water. Any questiones? What can I do with muscle tension? That's a good question. Betty, I would really recommend the Better Voice Challenge, because there's 8 sequences inside that walk you through how to release muscle tension. Yeah, so I really recommend that you do that. It is most people's biggest problem, to be honest. I was working with a client the other day in a private session, and, she was talking like this, and, she's like, I really want to work on my speaking voice and improving that for my singing voice, because I feel like my voice gets really tired. Let me just fix my video. My video's being weird. I don't know if I can turn that off. Never mind. But she had, she was glottling and that kind of thing. And what was happening? Her head was forward. She had a rounded back. And I'm like, until we get this going on here, and what we need to do is lengthen the back of the neck because the back of the neck is frozen in the shortened position. So we need body work, we need yoga, we need these sequences inside the Better Voice Challenge. That inside my method is a lot of body work and physical work because I know that that's what frees the voice. Let's see. What's the key to strengthening the combination of the head and chest voice? So that's really about building the bridge, right? So it's usually the final thing to come into place with training. Are you training right now, Ken? Are you like training with a serious vocal technique pedagogy, like a real pedagogy? Because you're going to need that. Like there's no way just by singing that that's going to happen. Like you actually have to go through the sequence to be able to free the vocal path, because the majority of the problem between head and chest is the laryngeal position, but there's a lot of other things involved. And the tighter that singer is, the tighter the neck is, the harder it is. That's why we always start with those release sequences that are taught inside the Better Voice Challenge, which is free, guys. I know I sound like a broken record, but you just got to go and do it. Because we need to clear the vocal path inside of your voice. And a lot of it is, you know, how you feel a little change in your throat. It's because the larynx is lifting up. And so in training, we learn how to keep the larynx lower, but it's not a technique you can just force. Like you have to put yourself in particular sequences of positions for it to happen naturally. Caitlin is asking, what is your biggest advice for a singer during the rehabilitation of pelvic floor after pregnancy? Yeah, I think a lot of it is body work. You know, a lot of it is somatic release and then working with a physical therapist and a body worker to release the tensions and start to restore the strength in the pelvic floor. Yeah. And everyone's different depending on what they went through in their pregnancy, you know, but yeah, I would really address it through yoga, through Pilates, through physical therapy, and through, body work, massage. Yeah. Yeah, you're welcome. Let's see if there's any other questions. Well, it's good to see everybody. We have a few more minutes. If anybody has questions, feel free to ask them now. Yeah, the thing about the singing voice is this, you know, you can't really wing it. You can wing it for a little bit, you know, but to really have a professional career, and what I mean by that is to be a successful artist, you know, is to put out records that sound great vocally and that you can deliver on stage vocally well, and you know, not just auto-tuned, but like you really know what you're doing. To be able to stand on that Grammy stage or the equivalent of whatever that is for you, it could be a local venue that you really want to play. To really be able to have control, you need to know what you're doing. So just because you have natural talent doesn't mean that you have fully explored the full potential of your voice. You know, think of it like an athlete. They can have natural talent, but until they really step into the sequences with their coach to really learn to correct any misalignments and then to improve the motor functions, to improve the coordinations, the strength, the balance, everything, right? There's a whole protocol. And if you go over to my website and you look at, there's a button that says the Cole Vocal Method. And you look at my Cole Vocal Method and look at what's involved and it's very biomechanical. We're not using secondary sounds like sing through the mask or do this or do that. We're not using that because it's an actual core method. It's a biomechanical method. So it doesn't change the style of your voice. You can apply it to any style. Opera singers can use it, R&B singers, hip hop, pop, country, doesn't matter, because it's a biomechanical method that improves the core strength of the voice. So go and check out the Cole Vocal Method on our website, and it walks you through the whole method, and you can see the difference. There's very few methods out there. This is an actual method, which means that it's a complete system, and we address all of the things. We address the physicality, we address the muscle tensions, the alignment, the body work element. We address the physical core of the voice. We strip away the compensatory muscles, the overcompensation muscles of the neck and the tongue and the jaw, and whatever else. We strip away those compensatory muscles. We reveal the core of the instrument using specific techniques that are brilliant, I must say. They really came from my mentor's mentor, who taught only at the Metropolitan Opera. But it's not a technique for opera singers, but opera singers use it. I'm working with an opera singer in London right now. The difference in her voice is just outstanding, stunning, astonishing, and that's what most people say when they start using this method. So you can go and experience this method for free. So those of you that are coming to these calls, I want to see you in the Better Voice Challenge. You need to go. You need to experience what this is. It's not taught anywhere else like this, and feel it for yourself. I notice when I'm singing in a loud environment, I often switch my chest so I feel like I'm straining my nose. That's very normal. Yeah, because when you're on stage, you're going to sing louder, particularly when you can't hear yourself back, which is a problem, which is why most singers use in-ear monitors. But yeah, I think it's not just nerves. It's well, it can be it's nerves, but it's also not being able to hear yourself correctly. So you sing louder, you push because you need to hear yourself back. And the part that's nerves, yes, it's the adrenaline, and you have to get used to that. And that comes from a lot of performing. But in general, usually that's coming from not being able to hear yourself accurately, and also maybe not having rehearsed enough in simulating the live performance setting, maybe going from your living room to the stage rather than living room to a rehearsal studio with a band to the stage. Because if you're in the rehearsal studio, you're going to simulate more of that live experience. Well, thank you. Yeah. And as you're coming on the lives after you've done the Better Voice Challenge, let's have a conversation and let me know how it's going for you. But this is the beginning of mastering the breath control. Join me every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern for my weekly live stream. You can find all the post archives of live streams over on YouTube. Just hit the live page and you'll see all the past live streams. So you have a plethora to go through there. And remember that everything I discuss on the live stream is on the blog that week. And if you want to get that blog in your inbox, sign up at carriecole.com, and also just for special offers and promotions that we do throughout the year. Thank you for joining me today, and I will see you next Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern. Bye, everyone.